So now we go into the silly season for college basketball. There are 4 players for Indiana in the portal. They needed 3 to get the incoming class in, which they've got that plus 1 now. Still waiting on decisions from a couple of guys, Race and Trace specifically. And
Right.
I'll be honest with you, I'm a little surprised we haven't heard from Race Thompson by now. Traces, I get is a little bit more intriguing because his involves the NBA. I don't know that Race does not, his decision is not involving the NBA as a potential landing spot. So, but just waiting to see how that goes. Does Indiana want both of them back, or do they want to go in a slightly different? I'm not saying, of course, they take Trace Jackson Davis back, and not that they wouldn't want Race Thompson. It's just they need something more. The wings. You talk about the wings that they did not get production from either Miller Kopp or Parker Stewart. They've got to have offense and defense from both of those spots because they didn't get either of those in great numbers this past season.
I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, the question is, all right, well, what do you? They have a chance to be better off. I think if Thompson goes, it's just you can't tell a guy that's been that versatile that he's got to go.
Right.
That's really the issue. Is somebody who produced that much.
I mean, he that production. The dude, he may have been the most consistent player. Trace Jackson Davis's numbers are bigger, of course. But I mean, man, Race Thompson was pretty damn consistent game in and game out.
Yeah, I mean, Race didn't finish particularly well. Like, he didn't have a good game against Wyoming. He didn't do. I don't know if he did any better against St. Mary's because everybody was bad against St. Mary's. But for the most part, yeah, he was the steady guy that you could trust was going to be there all the time. That he was going to defend, rebound, score, get his buckets all the time. And you didn't have to run the offense through him. He was just going to pick up what was there. And so, I mean, he was one of the most consistent guys. He was one of the most consistent sort of just figures and really was for the last couple of years. I mean, he just did so many things well, improved so much as a player and was able to get a lot done. So, I mean, you can't push a guy like that, out to pasture, like you got to wait for him to make his call. But if you're Indiana and you're thinking long-term, you want Jordan Geronimo to start, you want to give him a crack at it. And he's not a 3 right now. I mean, he could get to a point where you could put him and Thompson and Jackson Davis all on the floor at the same time. But he's got to become a small forward, which means a lot more ball handling than he showed he can do. And a lot more ability to defend the perimeter than he showed he can do. I mean, he's shown he can take on a 4 who drags him out there like an EJ Liddell. And that matters. I mean, that's important. That I don't need to discount that. But guys that are really guards, 3s that are really guards, he has trouble with. He gets out there and he can get crossed up. And you've seen that on a couple of occasions when he gets out on somebody who's really a guard and can break him down off the dribble, they can make him look bad out there. So you really want him defending 4s at this point, and you don't want him handling the ball out there that much. I mean, if you get him catch and shoot in the corner, he can hit that. But he's not crossing you up and keeping the ball together. I mean, his assist turnover ratio is not good. So but what he does the 4, fantastic. I mean, the rebounding, the shot blocking, I mean, just the overall energy, the ability to, score off of rebounds. He's even got that little, mid-range jumper on top of the 3 that he hits from time to time. He gives you everything you want as a 4. And I think you want enough minutes for him to really grow up and really take a next step because he's been a good bench guy. He's proven he can do that. I mean, he can be an all Big Ten power forward. So, you want him to get those kind of minutes. So it's not the worst thing on earth for Race Thompson to move on. And, you can stick a Caleb Banks in there. He's got that kind of size where I think he's more of a 3 and he's got, I think, more of an advanced handle than Geronimo does. But you think you can play him at the 4. You can shift Miller Kopp down if he's going to stick around so that he can play a stretch 4 with a smaller lineup. Those guys can take those minutes behind Geronimo at the 4. So you'd be in good shape. It's just you can't tell Race that he's done if he's not. But Trace then obviously is a different story. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't heard already that he's going to test the waters because I can't see a reason why he wouldn't do that. Why he I don't know if he should ultimately go or not go. But I mean, this is the first year in his career that the NBA offseason is going to be normal. So the draft calendar is normal for the first time in his career. It's so he doesn't have to wait, like, I mean, I can't remember what even obviously his freshman year was when COVID hit. So that was total mess. But the year after that, I mean, it was still, last year it was even still didn't make any sense. I mean, not make any sense, but it was still pushed back far enough that it's an issue for your team if you stay in the portal or if you stay in the draft or whatever, or take your time in that. He's got a chance now, I think, to just get a quick and useful water testing, and if he finds out that he's not a first round pick, he can come right back. But he finds out that he is, he can go. And so I don't know why I'm surprised he hasn't already said, like, I'm going to go find out. I'm going to go get my at the very least go get my feedback and find out what I need to do as a senior if I'm not good enough already.
I was going to say, part of it is we all know he's not a first round pick, and we don't even know that he's a second round pick for sure.
It's changing though, man. I saw NBADraft.net is pretty good, and they've got him as a first round pick. That's movement. That's changing.
That is that's definite movement, because that's the first time I've seen him jump up into that level.
Haven't even seen him in the draft. I mean, he really helped himself. I mean, you got to remember. I mean, and I think we knew it was a big deal at the time, but we don't know what it means for draft people, because you didn't see a lot that you hadn't seen from him. But it was just on a higher level. I mean, remember, he averaged 26 a game from Michigan on, I think. I mean, it might have even been Purdue, but I think it was from Michigan.
Well, he had a phenomenal season, no question.
At that end of the year. So, I mean, he does that in front of people who matter. I mean, like I know Bob Meyer of the Golden State Warriors was sitting right behind me in Indianapolis. So people saw him do that at Big Tens, and he was fantastic. And, he was great at Wyoming too. I mean, he was unbelievable at Wyoming. So you throw all those games together and, you see a dominant player. And I do think, as we've talked about him as Indiana media, we have really honed in on the jump shot. And there's reason for that, because, I mean, he's 6'9", and that's not necessarily a true 5 at the NBA level. And so it's like, okay, well, you've got to be able to shoot. But not every guy his size at that level can shoot. Not all of them. A lot of them can, and certainly more of them can than used to. Obviously, the 3-ball matters a lot more, and most guys can hit a shot. But, there's Montrezl Harrell, there's a Tristan Thompson, there's guys like that. If you can really, really rebound, if you can block shots, if you can run the floor and rim run, there's a place for you. That you probably have an all-star, but there's a place for you on an NBA roster. And so, like at the end of the first round, I mean, you're not going in there to be somebody's star player. You're going in there to be, to play a role for a team that wins. That's a playoff team or something like that. So it's not the same. It's not somebody that's bringing you on to be their, like, game-changing center. You're there to play a role. They've got somebody else who's their star, and you're supposed to fill in. And for a team that doesn't necessarily need, they can use a small ball 5 and doesn't need him to shoot threes, there might be a place for him. So we'll see.